disruptive.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So you may recall a few years ago, if you've been watching this channel or you've been following along with the tyranny of Justin Trudeau, you may recall a couple of years ago, he came forward in the election cycle, the election that he called to make sure he gained his popularity back, even though he was failing. A little notion about how people were basically forced into vaccination without actually saying they're being forced. You may recall this.
Don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
So that was the highlight of the mandates. That was the highlight of him enforcing restrictions, but not saying that I'm going to go full, force and tyrannical, which I think is even more diabolical for him. It's more diabolical for someone to say, oh, of course you have free will, you have free choice, but we're going to make sure you're trapped in this box so you can't go anywhere, you can't travel, you can't enter restaurants, you can't do your shopping, you can't experience life whatsoever until you do what we say. It's kind of like one of those cult movies that, oh, you're allowed to leave, but in order for you to leave, you have to go through a landmine, you have to go through this, you have to go through so many hurdles that by the time you get out, you're not going to get out. So I think that's more sinister and diabolical on his behalf. But this raised an interesting point, and I wanted to highlight this because Justin Trudeau's half-brother, yes, his half-brother. Apparently, Margaret Trudeau really got around. Justin Trudeau's half-brother exposes Canadian Prime Minister in a Tucker Carlson interview. That's him right there, looking like Weird Al Yankovic about to do a Beach Boys parody. And the half-brother is a complete kind of polar opposite to Justin Trudeau. This guy is... Well, first of all, he's campaigning for the Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's been touring around supporting him. He's got the Kennedy van that he's driving. He's for free speech. He's for freedom of choice. He's for bodily autonomy. He's been calling out the vaccines. He's been calling out the mandates. And he also called out his half-brother and saying that there's a darkness within Canada that's eroding the country and screwing over the once great true nation, true patriot love nation that I, myself, and other Canadians endure and take advantage of every day and grow up to believe that that's being eroded by this tyrannical, authoritarian, psychotic force that is decimated against Canadians. Listen to this.
It feels like there's some dark energies out there. There's I liken it to it just seemed like there was a negative cloud taking in Canada, a bad energy, bad juju going on. Like when my wife Brittany and I were in Canada in 2020, she was pregnant. She got chased out of a grocery store.
Why?
Not wearing a mask. She was super pregnant, and we're defiant around all of that stuff. I was just not having it. And but for people to get to that level of animosity and hate towards someone for not kind of complying, it's really scary that it got to that state. And
chasing a pregnant lady out of a grocery store?
Chasing a pregnant lady out of a grocery store. Triggering a miscarriage.
That's...
Wow. It's stories like that, which is why I still to this day have to call out the heinous evil acts that endured with COVID. This is why to this day we are never going to let this go. We are never going to let this slide. Because of how diabolical it really was. I mean, just the fact alone that you're chasing a pregnant lady. They had to have like officers at this grocery store, an essential service, They had to chase them out of the grocery store that conflicted with her having a miscarriage. That's insane. That's insane for Canada. For this, friendly neighbor of the North, that we're chasing pregnant people out of a grocery store to result in a miscarriage because she wouldn't comply with a mandate that wasn't even scientifically backed. And it just reminds me of all the other heinous acts that were endured for the past how many years? the roller coaster, the 2+ years of going up and down on mandates and enforcements, that was a tyrannical act, had nothing to do with health, nothing to do with the safety or civility of people, but was actually more just enforcement of the government compliance with big pharmaceuticals and surveillance industries to tackle citizens. There was so much at the top. This is why the truckers did what they did, because they said enough was enough. I mean, just even take the fact that here in Ontario, Canada, where I'm broadcasting this from, in Ontario, Canada, Doug Ford announced and demanded that all policings around Ontario, they demand police officers track and surveil citizens going outside. I kid you not. You probably remember me discussing this on this channel here. We did a full in-depth report about this, that Doug Ford demanded that all police officers track and surveil, monitor, and arrest people that were going outside, even for the simple act of grabbing their mail. Maybe they wanted to go for a walk. Maybe they just want fresh air, which was actually a positive thing, which is actually more beneficial and healthier for citizens. They need to get out and get that fresh air, because if you trap yourself in a closed, contaminated space, they're not going to get healthier. They're not going to get healthier. You need fresh air. You need the vitamin D. So why we were not encouraging people to go outside more was just absolutely crazy. But they were trying to arrest people for going outside. And every single policing around Ontario refused to do so. They refused to comply with Doug Ford's demands, because they said it was heinous, they said it was crazy, and they said they didn't even have the resources to do it. In order for them to go up and down streets to make sure people were locked inside, they wouldn't be able to do their regular job. Crimes would skyrocket because of them going after petty crimes like, I'm going to grab the newspaper. That's how crazy, villainous, and like you said, it is like a darkness that took over Canada. That darkness of basically a medical fascist tyranny. It was big pharmaceuticals in cohorts with Canadian government and law enforcement to track and surveil and monitor and lock down the nation and screw over an entire population. All on the face of protecting you. All on the face of making sure that you're safe and well. Which we have heard many different tales of tyrants using that exact same verbiage and language that they've always done before. When they always tell you that's for your own safety or security, that someone else has to lock down the entire nation and screw over and vilify you for your free speech and censor you, it is not for your protection. They couldn't care less about you. So, he also mentions, and this is another part of the clip here, where Justin Trudeau, this is not, and this is what I've been explaining for a long time now, that this goes far beyond just one person. That I view the prime minister or the president or the leadership as kind of like a mascot. You know, they may be the face of what's bringing this horrible, disgusting, disastrous policies that are screwing over the country, but they're not the ones that are actually enforcing it. They're not actually the ones that are drawing it out on blueprints. There's a whole entire section that's kind of hidden away that they that are unelected, unaccountable, and then push that towards the mascot, the prime minister or president or whatever leadership you have in your country, to enforce that. And he's about to explain this here. Watch.
And it's just really sad. Like, that's not a way to live. When I'm out here fighting for freedom and, like, speaking for freedom and liberty, well, Justin is not a free man. Like, he has, they just showed him trying to go to an event, a couple of days ago, and there were probably like 50 cops, like, as his escort, because Canadians are pissed off. It's angry out there, folks. It's not a good look. You can't drive a car. Like, he can't go to a restaurant. Like, you make a big sacrifice when you enter into that public arena. And, and he has entered that public arena. In the beginning, it was all kind of sunshine and rainbows, but now it's dark and there's a lot of negative energy. And to all the people that really are putting that negative energy on Justin, just recognize, like, Justin's like the captain of the hockey team. He's not the manager of it. He's not the owner of it.
Who do you think the owner is?
So he uses the analogy that he's the captain of this hockey team, but he's not the one running it. And that's interesting that he brings that up, because as I discussed and as we exposed here on this channel a couple of times now, that the Canadian government, all your ministers, all your senators, all the people that look like a healthy democracy here in this country, was actually brought upon by global tyrants like the WEF. Justin Trudeau was part of the Young Global Leaders Initiative to rise up. This drama teacher that just came out of nowhere was brought to you by the WEF. He was brought up to go along with their agenda, brought up to show how to be an effective leader, but really be a tyrannical force to oppress citizens. And the same goes with other nations that also have members of the WEF coordinating within the government. They penetrated the government, as Klaus Schwab said. They penetrate with their own litigation. So it really is a global cabal that is controlling the entire population. Something that, Alex Jones said 30 years ago and we laughed about and said how crazy and cynical that sounds. Oh my God, you're such a tinfoil hat. It's actually true. It's actually been true this whole entire time. That your democracy was taken over years ago. The democracy aspect, you voting an election, is basically a scam. It's basically a scam to keep you compliant, to think that you're democratically electing someone, but that person you're electing has already been trained by evil psychopaths that have nothing to do with you, don't have any sort of obligation, no sort of remorse, nothing, no respect for you whatsoever. But they penetrate the cabinets, they penetrate governments, put them into office, and then go along with their insanely corrupted, evil, maniacal agenda. Like the COVID mandates, like censorship, like the security apparatus, like the endless war regimes that we're doing right now. It is true that it's beyond Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is just doing the due diligence of his owners. He is just the mascot, or in this case, the hockey captain. He's the captain of the team, but he's not the general manager. He's not the one in control of his government. It's the lobby groups. It's the global cabals. It's the NGOs. It's the BlackRocks and the Vanguards and the World Economic Forum, the WHO and Bill Gates and all these other conglomerates gathering together. Sinister in a sinister pack to go against the entire civilization. It's more disgusting than what I'm just saying. It's absolutely insane what's happening. Anyway, is there more to this?
Who do you think the owner is?
I don't know.
You have a pretty good idea.
I mean, I personally think there's a spiritual component to all of this. So there's maybe the supreme leader of it, but I assume business interests are
Business interest.
involved.
Yeah. I use the word the corporatocracy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, their profits, you know, come from, like, you look at the pharmaceutical industry, like, and the profits reaped out of, you know, the COVID scenario. You know, it's just one example. Or the military industrial complex and the money and the profits reaped out of war. And you can.
But Canada's gotten.
So there you go. That is Justin Trudeau's half brother, Kyle Kremper, I do believe, or Kemper. Just bashing his half brother with truth, exposing once and for all exactly who this guy is. That Justin Trudeau is just doing the orders of a larger force that's taking control of this nation. And to think that, you know, truckers, the people that protested in Ottawa, the Freedom Convoy somehow ruined democracy and is doing harm to the nation or your friends or family or neighbors, they could not hold a candle to the already heinous acts that other interests, whether being business, whether being geopolitical, whether just being, you know, a just global force for total domination, have already done to harm the aspects of Canada. And this is why people are fed up, angry, and tired, and why Justin Trudeau has to have 50 cop cars when he goes to a restaurant. Exactly. Because he's not siding with his people. He's not leading this country. He's not responding to his citizens. He's not taking upon the interests of Canada. He's taking upon the interests of a global cabal, a mafia men, to take over nations. And that's coming from a guy who, again, looks like Weird Al. I like the shirt, though. It looks like he just came back from doing like a painting. I don't know. But good for him. Good for him and good for Tucker Carlson to bring this guy on. Because I didn't even know Justin Trudeau had a half-brother. The more you understand that family, the creepier it gets, you know. Do I believe the Fidel Castro son, you know, conspiracy? I don't know. I don't know whose son he is or what he represents, but all I know is he's getting his marching orders from a higher power beyond other governments or even his own.